Oh my god, you take so long.
Yikes. Starting off the day with little trouble in paradise. Ugh, that's a terrible saying because who would understand paradise if there was no trouble? For instance, LA's traffic never ceases to be the worst part of anyone's day.
Oh my god!
But then you have moments like these. I remember when I first moved to LA. I'm sure this is the same experience a lot of people have had that move here. In a way, it feels like you are in the epicenter of society. I mean, you look out at the Hollywood Hills, you get this sense that you're in a place where you can make your life better. I don't get that same feeling anymore looking out at those hills. But that's a good thing, I think, because the motivation you get from looking at those hills is dangerous. It's not where real inspiration comes from. Another place inspiration definitely doesn't come from is following Kib around trying to find a new home with his crippled friend, Jay.
Wrong address!
I legitimately don't know how Kib has survived this long.
Is it really close?
Yeah.
How close are we talking, like walking distance?
Like,
No,
if you did a
walking
cartwheel, you'd be.
Should I get an Uber?
So I followed them to the real location. I was interested to see what kind of apartment they'd be renting.
Fuck my life. What's up?
How sick are you right now?
Very. The narrations are hard to do now.
Wear a headband. That's why
I woke up in all of...
Oh, what? Just wear a headband? What advice is that? What is... Sorry.
Is Jay in the car?
No, Jason's. I smell weed. No, there's a guy right there smoking weed.
That's right, we caught him live on camera in California, smoking weed.
This is exciting. I wonder how it looks. Did you see with the pictures?
The pictures made it look much nicer than it currently is already looking.
On the outside, it was a bit of a bummer. On the inside, however, it was also a bit of a bummer.
So many activities. Yeah, this is just like.
Well, Jay can't. That's quite a view.
Wow.
The apartment even had a walk-in closet.
Goes deeper. Come on, dude. Yeah, not bad.
Application fee for the credit check. And
Kib was slowly realizing the amount of work he'd have to put in to live with someone disabled. Being Kib's legal guardian is tough, and it's always very difficult updating him on the visa situation, because the more information we get about the process, the more we realize how impossible it seems. Luckily, Kib doesn't understand stress, so he's totally fine. Me, on the other hand, I am very worried.
What is Jay still doing there? I don't understand.
Negotiating.
Yeah, well,
she
how?
said he has bad credit and that we can't get the place.
No,
but-
it wasn't bad credit. She
No.
said legs.
Yeah, I think he's demonstrating that he can use them.
She's making him do like little acrobatic.
She opens up another room, there's a whole course. The only amount of nature that you can see that isn't fake is like 2/8 of a tree. So you like the place, your credit's good, everything's fine, you want to get it?
I just gotta pay for it. That's it.
Do you pay for my meals?
I'll just pay for your urinary tract infection.
I knew you had a urinary. I knew it.
What?
I knew
Just
it.
because the blood?
Have a good day.
I will! Oh, it literally made a giant fucking dent in my head. My baby, dude. I'll never get her insurance back.
Just when I thought I'd had enough of Kib, I had to meet up with him later on to go to Cow Chop again.
Dude, what's up?
Yeah, I'm
You
right
gonna
outside
be
your
here
place. What?
You gonna be here soon?
Yeah, I'm literally right. Oh.
I keep trying to figure out why we as a group are so unorganized. It seems like even the smallest tasks are impossible.
Okay, James, do you have the address for Cow Chop?
Take this for example. I realized that James was too far away to hear me and he wasn't answering his phone. So the only option is really to get out of my car and go to his, wasting another at least 20 to 30 seconds.
It's not gonna. It's fine. He's right here. Jesus Christ. So the plan is right now we're going to. We're gonna drive to get.
And right here is another example of why it takes so long to make one of these videos.
No. 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 What? Come on.
10 minutes later, Kib finally stopped the car and got out.
Oh, now he's getting out. Are you kidding me? Well, make up your mind.
I'll drive it there, I will.
No one's driving it. I'm driving it. God damn it. What is wrong with you people?
Yeah, I don't want it, I decided.
Oh, you don't want it.
That color.
It's the lack of color. It's black.
After I got James the address, it was finally time to drive to Cow Chop. After dropping a bunch of peas on camera at their studios,
My peas! Shit, dude, Alyssa's gonna kill you.
we were contacted by Peas to endorse their product.
Guys, this is it, Cow Chop.
No, it's down the street.
This doesn't look like cow
I got the
chop.
address.
It's because it's not. Stop putting it.
No.
No, first off, we're not throwing peas at them. We're not trying to drop peas. We're trying to go and do the sponsorship. Okay?
I know, I
Because
came
we
up
get
with the
sponsored
jingle.
now.
What's the jingle?
I don't know. I haven't come up.
Whoa, whoa, let's get
peas.
I didn't have the heart to tell him that that was single-handedly the most brilliant set of lyrics I've ever heard in my life. I was a little worried Cow Chop wasn't going to take part in the sponsorship, especially considering I had no plans of sharing revenue with them.
Hey, open up. Hello? Don't cough on me.
Sorry.
A glimmer caught my eye and I realized it was the sun bouncing off of Brett's forehead. And to my surprise, he closed the door on us.
Get the peas over.
That was my bad.
There are very few scenarios where it's unfortunate that shoes match the jacket.
We have to do a sponsorship.
What?
For peas.
I'll make you a trade.
Thankfully, they started taking us seriously, bringing out their more popular members of Cow Chop.
What is this?
This is like for the client.
Is this flour?
You want some?
No.
I was fine playing their little boy games if it meant I could get my sponsored money. Plus, flour's pretty harmless. It was kinda sweet though.
What is that?
As it turns out, it wasn't flour at all.
This is a China woman's breast milk.
I'll be honest, I was surprised to learn about the breast milk. I was also surprised that James calls them China women, but I was even more surprised at how easily influenced Trevor was. Thankfully, we were able to get all of this on camera, and everybody's faces were so well lit because of Brett's natural sun reflector.
Did you disarm the security system before you came out here?
I wanted to hug
We locked out.
Did you disarm the security system before you came out
I
here?
walked out with you.
Oh, we didn't disarm the security system.
that? What is that?
Oh, we didn't disarm it.
Run, dude! Oh my god! Get your gun! Get your gun! I didn't bring it! You get hit! 7 times!
We could take legal action, but we choose not to. Kib had to take refuge with some of Cow Chop's neighbors, who were honestly a little bit sketchy.
What business do you guys do?
Whoa, let's get peace.
So I looked online to see how the new batch of posters were selling. The answer, not great. With Parker being in charge of marketing, I stopped by his house for a couple words of encouragement.
I was sneezing. Parker,
And then I found out it wasn't Parker that I was speaking to.
Oh no! Where's Jeremy?
Also gone. It's just me.
That sucks.
How are you inside?
I wouldn't already.
James has the weirdest ability to be in anyone's home at any time.
Infrared.
Even though Parker wasn't there for me to directly talk to, I figured someone he lives with is still in the loop and it's good enough to talk to him.
I figured I would come by and just see why the posters aren't selling like as well as, well, one would hope, you know.
Did you tell them that they're available at stevensuptic.com for $19.99?
How are you inside too? Okay, I'll give you one chance. Figure out a way for me to make these posters sell better. Give me any suggestion. I swear to God, I am so open to criticism at this point in my life. I'm really good at taking criticism. Just tell me anything. Just tell me it.
What if we filmed you in front of a green screen, dancing in front of a giant person?
What are you even saying? I actually can't hear you. You're hurting him. I'm not hurting him.
We gotta go.
Go. No cars, leave the cars.
I've never killed anybody before, so with this being my first time, obviously I was a little shaken up.
I don't know. I feel like there are going to be a lot of legal repercussions for this.
I think that was the most relief I've ever felt in my life.
Took him out. You took him out. Legally, that's not going to affect me.
bullet.
Dodge the bullet. I guess so, James. I guess so, because this is going to be really easy to figure out.
You're
this
a
whole.
dick. He's not responding.
He really wasn't responding to anything we said or did. He was in a vegetative state. For how long he'd be like this, we had no idea.
I guess we just leave him here like this for a while.
He's technically like breathing and stuff.
Blink for how many days Parker is going to be gone.
So we left him on the porch. I was starting to feel a little feverish, and I figured Parker would clean up the mess when he returned, 7 days later.
What's up, dude?
What are you doing in my house? Oh!
Oh, I'm so warm.
Why are you in my house?
Well, I made a key.
I'm so tired, man. I gotta go to sleep.
Alright.
I gotta go to sleep.
Actually, could you make me some soup?
I can't make
You got me sick.
I didn't get you sick. You got me sick.
Well, whatever. I need soup and I need a back rub now.
I'm not gonna give you a back rub. I'm not gonna make you soup. I don't even have soup.
You're gonna at least give me the back rub.
I'm not gonna have a back rub for you.
Now.
No.
Very good.
Whoa, let's get peace.